This is part 2 of my interview with Implementation and Change Manager Valeria Santos and Senior Director Simon Jones about the implementation and change process for schools adopting Sentral. We talk about some of the FAQs around the implementation process, such as ensuring that the data migration works, training, support, and on-the-ground consultation for specific situations. I'm Colin Klupik. Let's pick it up from where we left off. Okay, so let's turn now to some questions that frequently come up in conversation when considering a transition like this, particularly in Sentral's case. Simon, I'm going to direct this first one to you. It says, I'm an administrator. The functionality looks great, but data migration is a deal breaker. And that's the kind of thing that we hear frequently. What assurances would you give to someone who says, listen, the migration has to work or I'm just not interested?
Yeah. So number one, we fundamentally agree. The data migration has to work because you will be asked questions about things that happened before you had Sentral. So number one, we're on the same page. Yes, it must work. Number two, Valeria's team have done so many of these and do them concurrently all year throughout the year. So if you haven't done them at your school, then lean on Valeria and our team who have done lots of these and use it as a learning experience. Yes, deliver it for your school, but actually data migration will no longer be a thing that you're afraid of because you'll be working with a team of people who just do data migrations all day, every day.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about implementation and migration. Now, Valeria, I'll direct this next question to you. Surely that involves training. How do you handle that?
So we're actually really flexible. So as part of the journey and the module rollout, there'll be a lot of capability workshops, there'll be training sessions. We'll typically do train the trainer to make sure that schools are adequately equipped with being able to manage the system, do any setups, make any changes moving forward. But also if they need support, we're more than happy to do training to the end users, more your teachers, and sort of, I guess we see it as being that conduit, actually trying to bring everyone together and get them really aligned.
Now, one step further from that, I guess, is support. And there's a question here which just quite simply says, and this is a frequently asked question as well, just what about support? How do those two things relate?
So if you're talking about support into BAU, we're really fortunate. We do have a relationship managers team. There is a handover period. There's internal documentation. We make sure that through the process, our support teams are well aware of all the different moving parts, just to make sure that, when they actually do go into BAU, it means that when they first call up, whoever's taking that call will have some sort of context on who this customer is. And have a level of understanding of potentially what their requirements were throughout the implementation, as well as, what are some key things that they should be aware of.
Okay, now coming back to the change situation, because when you've got training and then support, this is all happening in an environment of change. Simon, I'll come back to you on this one. We've talked a lot about managing change, but what about specific on-the-ground training for certain situations? Do you provide training that is on the ground for individual school situations and managing the change expectation with people side by side?
Absolutely. So Valeria's team includes those trainers that can either train you remotely, ad hoc, quick online sessions, or that we come out to the school and do something a bit deeper and look specifically at what you're doing and how you can use Sentral to do those tasks.
Okay, and just about that specialist role, Valeria, I'll just come back to you one more time for this. The specialist role for independent schools, how long is that person typically involved in the process? You've talked about a 12-month time frame. Does that role go beyond that time? How does that work?
Well, typically you'll actually be working with a few different specialists depending on what you're going to be rolling out. Could be a finance specialist, could be the implementation manager throughout the entire project, or data migrations or integration specialist. But you will always have, I guess, a implementation manager throughout the whole entire process, whether it's 12 months, whether the project's 6 months, or possibly even 18 months.
That concludes part 2 of this interview on the implementation process for Sentral. Be sure to check out part 1 if you haven't seen it, and keep a lookout for our other interviews covering topics including the teacher experience and integrations. There are links in the description. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Colin Klupik, and we'll see you there.